Okay. Refresh. Let's see. Okay. Honestly, how do you see the chat if there is one? Actually, I don't know if oh yeah, you can see my voice. You can hear my voice. Okay, got it. So let's start. Actually, I don't know if oh yeah, you can see my voice. You can hear my voice. Okay, got it. So let's start. Actually, I don't know if okay, fuck it. Let's start. First, okay, so welcome everybody. Today we're gonna analyze a couple of games. Actually, we're gonna analyze just one game because that's one of my biggest weaknesses, analyzing games. It has always been like this, and since it's very hard for me in the beginning to analyze the games, we're just gonna analyze one game that I lost, and then we're gonna play a couple of games, and we're gonna do analysis after each game. So first, let's see the rapid. Okay, this is the game that I lost. Okay, we played against d4. So against d4, I'm always playing the King's Indian, although I have no idea how to play it. So maybe after this game we're gonna see like a video of how you're generally supposed to play this King's Indian. And know you're supposed to attack on the king side, but that's just basically all of the knowledge they have. Have my tea ready, have my water ready, so it's 21:43. Okay. So opponent starts with d4. Knight f6. Opponent plays knight f3, which is a book move, I guess. g6. Bishop f4. So my opponent is trying to play the London system, I think this is called, although I'm not really sure. It seems like the London system. I'm developing my bishop and preparing e4. So now my opponent has a lot of pressure on this square, controlling this square in the center. I don't have any control in the center other than the knight controlling these two squares. I'm prepared to castle. My opponent has a knight and bishop into the game. I have a knight and bishop as well, a knight and bishop. So basically now I think I should try to fight for the center. Right now I have one pawn controlling, and if the knight moves the bishop, let's say the knight moves here, I'll have 3 pieces as well controlling this square. But usually in the King's Indian you push this pawn, and then if takes, if the knight was here, I can take, and the bishop cannot take because I'll be the one winning material. My opponent plays the London. Okay, so this is an inaccuracy, it seems. I should have prepared the knight like this, or played with this knight first. Maybe developing this knight would have been a good move as well. In general, I don't know how good it is to develop the bishop here in the King's Indian. I generally don't know what to do with this bishop. But right now it's move 5, and I have not yet castled, so I should have castled before this move. Yeah, so now the opponent can... Yeah, so this is also a mistake. Yeah, so by allowing my opponent to take, he takes the queen, and I have to take with the king, and this leads to a worse position. So this was my mistake first. So I should have castled here. This is one of my mistakes. I should have castled, and maybe... Yeah. Okay, so... Anyway, the material is equal either way. And now my opponent is up a pawn. Okay, interesting move from my part, which is actually starting to lose the game. Instead of developing a move and attacking the bishop, knight here I think would be good, or knight here, I'm moving the king. What was the purpose? Maybe I was worried about this bishop coming here and preventing me from castle, but well, what I'm talking about, I can't even castle anymore. But anyway, so this is a mistake. And yeah, my pawn is hanging, and the bishop can take the pawn. He misses. Okay, misses in trades. My knight for the bishop. Now I have the 2 bishops. So this is not a particularly losing position, but at my level at least. But yeah, he develops the bishop. Still haven't developed the knight, so I haven't developed any of my queenside pieces the whole game. My opponent castles, so a better idea was for him to play pawn to h3, but he castles. Okay. Now it's saying that I should have played rook here. Yeah, so the rook should have been in the open file. So here I should have just either played the knight on one of these squares or developed the rook here in the open file. Now my opponent has the open file. I manually castled, okay, but my opponent has the open file. Finally developed the bishop, just taking this diagonal. If here I trade it, but yeah. Interesting. So the knight here, my opponent, it's saying that the best move is to retrieve the bishop. Why? I don't understand. Okay, but anyway. Fine. Not the best move, okay. Just an inaccuracy. So because I'm down a pawn, my opponent trades. But now I have the open file at least. Haven't moved any of these pawns. Okay, so now there's a fork. Which piece can be forked? Now the material is equal. Okay, let's see. So, taking the knight. Let's try to rethink and calculate this position. We take the knight. Bishop takes e3. G takes e3. Knight at knight e5. Forking the bishop on c4 and the pawn on f3. Bishop moves where d3. Yeah, so here I'm just hanging a piece. Now I'm just down a lot of material. And yeah, here is basically the game is losing. So this game, what didn't I do wrong? In the beginning, I didn't castle, so I made a mistake here. I should have castled. Let's see. Castling is good. Can I analyze the game? What about this? Good move. Which is the move that they recommend? Okay, castles. Knight c6. Okay, why? Knight c6. Okay, since I have no idea how to play the King's Indian, maybe we can watch a lesson. But let's make some notes. Let's download Obsidian because I don't have it in my computer. So basically, because I'm gonna be playing chess here the most, let me have some tea. Tea is not the tea isn't sweet enough. So because I'm gonna play chess on the computer mostly, I'm gonna use Obsidian mostly for chess. So, but now let's just watch the King's Indian. So in this position, I had to, of course, not blunder. I had to develop my queenside pieces faster. I should have castled. So in the opening, my main idea, for the next game, what I have to do is try to develop all my pieces, figure out the middle game strategy, and if I get a winning position either in the opening, in the opening, I should try to either trade all of my pieces and then try to see if I can win the end game. Okay. King's Indian. King's Indian defense.
When white opens the game with d4, black can decide to play in a solid, classical style with d5, taking a fair share of the center, gradually improving the position toward equality, and then seeking chances to play for a win if possible. The King's Indian defense, on the other hand, is a complex, sharp, and risky opening.
Let's go.
Black is not trying to achieve equality, but prefers to create an imbalanced position, seeking fighting chances, often involving a sharp kingside attack.
Exactly
We
what
reach
we
the
need.
King's Indian after the moves knight f6, developing a piece and controlling the center. White continues to take space with c4. A key characteristic of the King's Indian is a kingside fianchetto with g6. White continues to develop and centralizes a knight with knight c3. White is now prepared to take even more space in the center with e4. Black invites white to continue with this plan by playing bishop g7. Black's bishop develops to the long dark square diagonal, hoping to create active play on this diagonal.
I never do.
This move also prepares kingside castling. White continues to take space in the center with e4. White enjoys a large center when black typically plays d6. We have now reached the basic position of the King's Indian defense. White has 3 pawns in the center and enjoys a space advantage, controlling many of black's key squares on the 5th rank. Black accepts this space disadvantage to later counterstrike against white's center. Notice white's pawn on d4 can only be protected by pieces, as the neighboring c and e pawns have advanced to the 4th rank.
Okay.
Black has just played the move d6 to help support the center and prepare the thematic King's Indian pawn thrust e5. And in some variations, black also strikes in the center with c5. So these are 2 central pawn thrusts to keep in mind.
So I can trust both of these pawns then. I thought this is the main line that I like maybe watch this video and then try to play. But in general, I know that the whole idea is to attack the king from the king side. We generally lock the center, white tries to break here. But what I'm thinking about now is, because a lot of opponents play the London system, so how does the King England fare against the London? Maybe or something we can analyze this a little bit later.
Since black is not immediately putting pressure on the center, white has great flexibility in deciding how to continue. White's most common move is knight f3, developing another piece and supporting the center.
Okay, chess. Don't blunder. Play slowly. Develop all your pieces. If you have an advantageous, whatever, how you write it, position, simplify. Okay, easy. Analyze each game after you play.
Black typically continues by castling the king. Black's king finds shelter behind the fianchettoed structure, castling the king. Black's king finds shelter behind the fianchettoed structure and prepares to strike in the center with e5 or c5. White's most popular response is bishop e2, which looks like a passive move. It turns out that the bishop is misplaced if white plays bishop d3. This move does appear more active, but it blocks white's queen on the d-file, meaning white's knight on f3 is the only defender of the key d4 square. This invites black to play bishop g4, pinning white's knight, which makes d4 more vulnerable to attack, with moves such as knight c6 or knight f to d7, revealing the bishop's attack against d4.
Okay, interesting.
Since moving the...
Okay. Let's analyze this one. How do you play with black? Set a position. Flip board. Load. D4. G6. Wait. What am I doing? New. Okay. So E4, knight F6, C4, G6, knight C3. White has control over these squares. The knight has control of these squares in the center, so as long as this, also these. If you get to the bishop, white takes all of the center basically for free. Okay, not for free, but like for now. With E4, so you have D6. White develops the knight, and we castle. Now the main move is bishop e2 or h3, okay, preventing this. But bishop d3 is also a move. So let's play bishop d3. And this is the main move, okay, because now we're adding pressure in the center. Actually, this is white should move the bishop to g5. But what if white castles here? It's an inaccuracy. Okay. If you attack here, making our opponent play this if he knows this line. So if our opponent plays g5, the knight is under attack. It can go here, attacking this knight and the bishop, which seems good. It can go here, attacking the knight, and with e5 we can support it, ruining white's pawn structure. Let's see. This is actually the best move. How? Okay, let's see. Knight d4, yeah. Bishop back. And now we play e5. If partner takes, we take. Queen takes. Bishop takes. Knight takes. Rook e8, putting pressure on the pawn. Okay, this is deep enough. What about this move? This one is the best move, but anyway. Okay. Now, if we play here, bishop e2 once again. Why? Now this pawn is under attack. Okay. Let's see.
The bishop to d3 has serious drawbacks. This is why white typically prefers to play bishop e2, developing the bishop and preparing to castle without weakening the d4 square. Black now has two typical ways to strike in the center. Black can play c5, which can transpose into other opening defenses. Instead of c5, black can play the more common King's Indian pawn break, e5. Sometimes black prefers to prepare this move with knight bd7, which is a solid move. But thanks to a key tactical resource, the main line of the King's Indian is to strike in the center immediately with e5.
What is this tactical resource?
On the surface, this move looks like it simply loses a pawn, but as we'll see,
C3.
the hidden potential of black's dark-squared bishop prevents black from losing a pawn. After d takes e5, d takes e5, white usually trades queens with queen takes d8, rook takes d8. White should continue with bishop g5, pinning black's knight on f6. But if white tries to win a pawn with knight takes e5, white is in for a rude awakening with knight takes e4, regaining the pawn and discovering the dark-squared bishop's attack against white's knight.
Okay.
If white plays knight takes e4, black will simply play bishop takes e5, centralizing the bishop as the dark-squared bishop comes to life. If white tries to win a pawn with the desperado tactic, knight takes f7, hoping that black will play king takes f7, when white would then win material with knight takes e4. It's important for us to remember black's instructive resource, bishop takes c3 check. Instead of winning a pawn, white loses a piece after b takes c3, king takes f7. It's really important to review, as well as fully understand this line,
Okay. Let's
as
see.
this is the tactical justification that allows black to play so aggressively in the main line of the King's Indian.
Okay. Let's go back.
Since
Now. In this position, white plays the bishop. The orthodox variation. This is the best move. We strike again in the center. So now what happens if the pawn takes? If the pawn takes, we take. And if white captures the pawn, we capture back. If the knight captures, we capture. Oh. Oh, yeah. So here first white trades queens and then captures. And in this position we're slightly ahead. Okay, but what if black, he said, plays here? Bishop takes check, pawn takes, king takes, and we are winning. Okay, but what if black white pushes? I'll be right back. I'm going to the toilet. Okay. Let's continue.
After d takes e5, d takes e5, white usually trades queens with queen takes, trying to open up the long dark square to d7. Black has several options in this position, including knight b to d7, as well as e takes d4, trying to open up the long dark square diagonal for black's bishop on g7, as well as opening up the e-file, preparing rook e8 to add pressure to the e4 pawn.
Actually, I've done this.
Both of these ideas are reasonable, but black's most aggressive and double-edged move is the main line, knight c6. Black adds more
Yeah, I
pressure
don't play
against
this
white's
one.
center, especially the key d4 square. If white plays bishop e3,
I was in a tournament recently here in the first tournament that I went in Burgos, where I'm from, where black played a5 and knight a6, a5, knight a6.
adding another defender to
Which was
d4,
interesting.
black can play knight g4, attack.
Ало. Може ли да оставите в асансьора храната? Трябва да има едно столче. Много благодаря. Сега ще към асансьора. Благодаря. Бе, храната дойде. Храната дойде. Бе, колко много храна.
Attacking the bishop and revealing black's dark squared bishop's pressure against the she plays bishop e3, adding another defender to d4, black can play knight g4, attacking the bishop and revealing black's dark squared bishop's pressure against the center, when black has created good fighting chances. White's main response is to take space and confront black's provocative play with d5. Now that the center is closed, black transfers the knight to the kingside with knight e7. The battle lines have been drawn. White has a space advantage and can prepare to fight for more space on the queenside with moves such as b4 and c5. Black can attack white's center with c6, a resource to keep in mind,
Yeah.
but black's main idea is to move the knight away from f6 and begin a kingside attack with f5. We can see the clash of ideas, white attacking on the queenside and black committing to an all-or-nothing kingside attack after the moves knight e1, intending to centralize the knight with knight d3, which then prepares the thematic c5 pawn break. Moving the knight away from f3 also prepares the pawn move f3, building a pawn chain from g2 to d5 and strengthening the center. Black can play the move knight e8, but more commonly plays knight d7, preparing f5 and also adding protection to the c5 square. White has two main choices to consider. One option is to play bishop e3, developing a piece and preparing to help attack on the queenside. This move invites f5, when after f3, black can gain a tempo against white's dark squared bishop with f4, when white's dark squared bishop. White has two main choices to consider. One option is to play bishop e3, developing a piece and preparing to help attack on the queenside. This move invites f5, when after f3, black can gain a tempo against white's dark squared bishop with f4. When white's dark squared bishop retreats to f2, both sides can expect razor-sharp play. Another option for white is to continue with the knight maneuver, knight d3. White centralizes the knight and helps prepare c5. Black continues with the thematic King's Indian pawn break, f5. Black would like to see e takes f5, when this will help open up the dark squared bishop with an eventual pawn push, e4. Instead, white can continue to calmly develop with bishop d2. The bishop avoids moving to e3, where it will simply be attacked by black's pawn. The main point behind this modest bishop move is to prepare rook c1. Let's watch how both sides continue to pursue their respective plans. White will attack on the queen side, and black will continue on the king side. After knight f6, black adds more pressure to the e4 pawn. So white reinforces the center with f3. Black can now grab more space on the king side with f4. And white can continue to grab space on the queen side with the thematic pawn break c5. Black's kingside pawn storm rushes forward with g5. It feels risky to advance pawns in front of the king, and black does need to be careful. But as the center is closed, it isn't so easy for white to exploit the weaknesses around black's king for the time being. White should continue to focus on invading black's queenside with rook c1. White's rook prepares to add pressure down the c-file, and black can now improve the position of the e7 knight with knight g6. Both of black's knights are now well positioned to help attack on the king side, and this knight may invade on the h4 square in the future. Black's bishop on c8 often watches the king side from a distance, and if black is able to force white's pawn to advance to h3, this piece may sacrifice itself on that square to help open lines against the enemy king. White doesn't waste any time and opens up the c-file with c takes d6. C takes d6. With this exchange, white has opened up the c-file and has also turned the d6 pawn into a backward pawn, so black's pieces will need to defend this weak target that white will attack. White can continue with knight b5, adding pressure to the backward d6 pawn, and prepares to invade black's territory with knight c7, attacking the rook and also eyeing the e6 square. Black can now combine attack and defense with rook f7, protecting the c7 square and also opening up the f8 square for the bishop. This helps protect the weak d6 pawn, and by vacating the g7 square, black's rook is now able to play rook g7, where it will help support black's kingside attack, especially after g4. After queen c2, white adds more pressure to the c-file, in the c7 square in particular. Black can play knight e8, defending c7, as well as d6, and can also consider to continue the attack with g4. The forcing queen b6 check, forking white's king and knight on b5, does not actually win a piece, as white can play knight f2, defending against the check and revealing the bishop's defense of the knight. Of course, both sides have several ways to play this complex position, but this at least gives us a sense of what both sides are trying to accomplish in the main lines of the King's Indian. Instead of knight e1, white can also grab space on the queen side immediately with b4.
For you a long time. I thought you would make